Well, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to Monday. I guess we're going to call this Comic Talk or whatever you want to call it. Since I can't get to any of my shops are now all closed. I'm going over books from my collection. And one of my favorite reads is from 2012, and it's this one right in front of you. It's called Star Wars Blood Ties, Boba Fett is Dead. When I heard that this one was coming out, I thought, man, I got to get it because I'm a Boba Fett fan. And this cover is by David Palumbo, and he did a variant, basically the same cover, but Boba Fett isn't there. It's just a chalk outline. So kind of like, you know, in the 1935 B movies. But anyways, when this came out, I really thought, I've got to get this. Now, this is called Blood Ties, and it's really interesting because there is several different stories about blood ties, which of course means family ties, going on this. Now, the lead in this story, other than Boba Fett, is a bar owner named Connor Freeman. And he has been saved twice by Boba Fett, and he is at his bar when he finds out that Boba Fett has been killed. The Imperial guards ambush Boba Fett and they kill him, and he finds out, and he's sad because he said, you know, Boba Fett saved me several times. But the thing and if you don't want to know, if you're going to read this and you don't want to, I'm going to give you some spoilers here, you might want to turn this off. But Connor Freeman is actually Boba Fett's half-brother. He is a clone son. He is a son of he's a clone son of Jango Fett. So Jango Fett, obviously, when he wasn't bounty hunting, was hanging out with women. Also in this, we meet Boba Fett's wife, and her name is Sintas Vel, and she has a daughter. And Connor Freeman goes about trying to find out you know, who killed Boba Fett. Now, as you read this, there is a hooded figure that now goes about the Galactic Empire trying to find out who arranged for Boba Fett's death. We never see his face, but he is questioning everybody and anybody that had anything to do with this. Now, we find out later on the person that wanted Boba Fett dead was the governor of Concord Dawn, and I'll explain why that later. But it's a great story. The art inside is done fantastically, and it's only a 4-issue series, so it's a very fast series, and it's really jam-packed with some really great stuff. But it basically, the reason it's called Blood Ties is because there's blood ties between Boba Fett and Connor Freeman, and then Boba Fett and his wife and his daughter, and then the governor of Dawn and his son. So there's a lot of blood ties, so 3 different family issues. On this one, this is number 2, and this cover is done by Chris Skelf, and I love that, absolutely love that cover. He's on the dewback, he's got Boba Fett's helmet, and he's looking at it like, yahoo. And in this issue, this is the first time we see Boba Fett's wife, Sintas Vel, and her daughter. And her daughter looks to be about 8 or 9, and of course she's an accomplished bounty hunter as well. Also, this is the first time where we see, and I think anywhere, we see Boba Fett actually unmasked. And the reason we see him unmasked here is because we see the story of how he got cornered to be killed, and he was chasing a bounty, and he ended up down a hole, and the Imperial Guard said, you know, give up, come out, or we'll roast you. And there was a guy down there that he had bounty hunted and had killed, so he ended up putting this guy in his outfit, and then he sent him up in the rocket pack. So now we know that Boba Fett is not really dead, and we know the shadowy figure for the first issue and part of this one that's going around trying to find out who set him up is actually Boba Fett. I mean, you kind of have the idea that it is Boba Fett, but you know, it's a shadowy figure, you really don't know. But this is the first time we see his daughter's, his wife, Sintas Vel, and the daughter. But the cover is amazing. I mean, the dewback looks absolutely fantastic, and just holding that helmet like that is just fantastic, really awesome. This next one, again, the cover is Chris Skelf. This was done in 2012. And this is Star Wars Blood Ties, Boba Fett is Dead, in the shadow of Darth Vader. So we do get Darth Vader in this series, and it's a very short appearance. And the reason we get this short appearance is because the next series that was coming out after this was Darth Vader Goes to Prison, which was another fantastic, and we'll cover that next Monday. But of course, you've got to have Vader in this. And this is where we now find out that Connor Freeman realizes who Boba Fett is. He becomes aware that Boba Fett is his half-brother. And we also, in this one, we see... hold on a second here. Yeah, we see basically Connor Freeman has now ended up at Fett's wife's house, Sintas Vel's house, and they're kind of locked in there in a battle. The governor has found them, and he's trying to eliminate the whole works. But we do get the Darth Vader appearance here, and he's not in. I think he's only in for about 2 pages, but he's in. It's a little bit of the story, but it doesn't really add to the story. If Darth Vader never showed up, it wouldn't have affected the story at all. And then, of course, the last one, again, Chris Gelf is your cover artist. And a couple of things happen here. We see Boba Fett return in Slave 1 when his family is cornered. And this is the first time we also see Connor Freeman and Sintas Vel in Mando armor. They have Mando armor. Now, it's different than what Boba Fett's is, and it's different than what we saw on The Mandalorian, but they're still in armor. And Sintas Vel is very aware now who Connor Freeman is. She is very aware that this is Boba Fett's half-brother because they look identical. And Freeman is, at this point in time, still isn't 100% sure who this woman is. He's quite sure that she's single, and he kisses her. And at some point she says, you can't stay, you have to go because you remind me of somebody I really don't want to see again. And that at the end they get to the top, and well, before we get to that, we find out why the governor of Concord Dawn was after Fett. And the reason that he was after Fett is because Fett killed his only son. And the governor said he was such a beautiful boy. And then we find out that the governor's son actually assaulted Fett's wife. And that's why he was marked for termination. And Fett's wife tries to explain it to the governor, and the governor tries to kill her. And long story short, the governor is killed in this. But so there is the blood ties. There's the blood ties between Connor and Boba Fett, Sintas Vel and Boba Fett and Connor Freeman, and then the blood tie between the governor and his son. So that's why it's called Blood Ties. So you get 3 different types of stories in here. It's a very good story, but this cover is a beautiful Boba Fett cover. I mean, we get the crest here, the damage in the helmet, and there he has got his guns pointed straight at you, and it's called Fett's Revenge. But it's anyways, he kisses Fett's wife. And then when he gets to the top, he realizes that this is Fett's wife, and he's like, oh man, I'm in trouble. And Fett just turns to him and says, you kissed my wife. And he goes, I know. And then they're walking away, and he says, what do I call him, Chris? Connor Freeman says, that sure is a cute little girl. And Fett says, yeah, well, she has both of our eyes. And that's how it ends. So he is aware, Fett is aware that he has a daughter, and he walks away, sort of thing. But great storyline, great covers. I mean, how can you go wrong? That one's beautiful. This one is kind of okay. I was a little disappointed in this one, but this one I think is my favorite cover. Just the moons, the blues, the holding the helmet on the dewback. And it's a clone trooper. You can see he's in blue. That, I think, is my favorite cover out of them. And this one I enjoyed it. It's not really Boba Fett, but you're like, oh my God, Boba Fett is dead. Kind of interesting. So just a couple of little quick things before we move on. I'm going to show you something here, and we're going to talk about Mandalorian armor. So we're talking about Boba Fett armor and all the rest of that kind of stuff. And in the Mandalorian lore, Mandalorians' armors, or the bounty hunters' armors, are made by the women in their clan. And it's usually the grandmother that makes the armor. The wife or the mother also contributes, but it's usually the females who make the armor. And their armor is designed like the Scottish tartans. Each faction has their colors and their designs, and it is a death sentence to copy another Mandalorian's colors and pretend to be from that clan. You can be killed for it. And that brings us to this gentleman right here. Now, if I hold my hand here and I say, who is that? Everybody says, well, that's Boba Fett. And actually it's not. It's a guy named Jodo Kast. And Jodo Kast was a fairly mediocre bounty hunter. Wasn't very successful at what he did. But he decided that he was going to copy Boba Fett's armor, and he was going to basically, take jobs on, kind of like take the money but never really do it. And then, people would just pay him because he was Boba Fett. And of course, it would be very hard to tell it was Boba Fett because he's got a helmet on. He never takes it off. So this was a guy named Jodo Kast. Now this was in, he's never been in a movie or anything, but he is in canon if you read the novels. So long story short, Jodo Kast ended up being hunted down by Boba Fett and having to pay for this. And it's in an omnibus. The story is in a Boba Fett omnibus. The whole story is there, but I don't often see this figure. And a lot of people are not aware that there was a copycat Mandalorian out there in the exact same colors as Boba Fett named Jodo Kast. So I'm not sure anybody realizes. I can't remember. This is from the Legacy Collection and the Droid Build-A-Figure from the Droid Factory. I'm trying to figure out when this was. I think this was 2008 when this one came out. But a lot of people are not aware of the copycat of Boba Fett. So just thought I would bring that up and show it to you, and because we're all watching The Mandalorian and we're really enjoying it, and I'm going to do this on Mondays. Sorry I stumbled through a lot of this. I don't do this with a script. I kind of do it without it. But anyways, that's all for today. I'll have something for you on Wednesday, I think. Kind of space this out. I think we'll have some wrestling figures on Wednesday. But thank you for tuning in, my little comic run. And if you really want to read a good story, pick up this Star Wars Blood Ties, Boba Fett is Dead. I think you would really enjoy it. Only a four-part series. Very enjoyable. Area 51's home of the superheroes, saying take care of yourselves, and we will catch you all on the next one. Bye-bye.